very much for that. In fact, let's talk about the budget tomorrow and find out what the expectations are from the indirect taxes. We have with us Saurabh Agarwal, tax partner at EY India. And we also have MS Money, who is the partner of GST at Deloitte India. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. If both of you could weigh in, and Saurabh, you could start with this. There has been a lot of clamour for safeguard duty for protecting the domestic industry. We've heard that from all the titans in the steel industry. So are you expecting any import duty revisions in areas like steel, green energy, equipment, life-saving drugs? Take us through the expectation on this front.
If you look at from a custom duty perspective, it has been a much talked about area wherein it is expected by the industry that there will be tariff revisions in some areas. I don't foresee that there will be a big thing which is coming. But what I expect from the government when they are looking at rationalization of customs duty is to ensure that, like they gave a boost to the manufacturing by way of bringing in PLI scheme in various sectors. In some of the sunrise sectors, as you're talking about, solar module manufacturing, electronic components, semiconductor, green hydrogen, electric vehicles, lithium-ion cells. It's important for the government to clearly lay down the path of customs duty. Long back in the Kelkar committee, they laid down the 5-year tariff structure. So one of the expectation which is coming from the industry is to lay down a path for 3 to 5 years, divided into what should be the duty for raw material, intermediary, and finished goods, and how over a period of time these duty rates will pan out so that it provides a requisite clarity to the various stakeholders so that they can set up and build capacities, private equity and bankers can fund them, and the foreign companies can agree on tech collaboration and joint ventures.
Mr. Money, come in on this point. Do you expect the finance minister to lay down the roadmap for the taxation, say for the next 3 or 5 years, which provides clarity and that impetus to domestic manufacturing? And if yes, drill it down on individual sectors and the numbers in terms of expectations this time of protection.
Look, there is certainly a need, as we keep talking about various plans for the future, to have a very clear roadmap, not only in respect of customs duty that Saurabh said, also in respect of GST. We need to look at both and have a roadmap, because we have to bear in mind that both customs duty and GST are transaction-specific taxes. And since these are indirect taxes, businesses have to factor in whatever taxes they end up paying into the price of the products that they sell. So the competitiveness, the profitability, the funding, the working capital, it all depends and flows from this. And therefore, there is a need for clearly a roadmap in respect of customs duty tariffs, in respect of customs duty reforms, and also in respect of the GST reforms that are expected. Because while GST is the mandate of the GST Council, and it is not the mandate only of the central government, from a directional perspective, what is the status in respect of rationalization of GST rates? How are we in respect of inclusion of fuel-related products in GST? Do we have some kind of a roadmap of 1 year, 2 year, 3 years for that? What is it that we are going to do to make input tax credits easier for businesses where they are literally struggling today, and there are a lot of disputes on input tax credits as well? It is essential to have a roadmap covering all these issues as part of the budget. Now, whether we will see a roadmap in respect of customs and whether we will see some kind of directional clarity on GST, I guess we need to wait for roughly 24 hours from now.
Okay. Mr. Agarwal, another important aspect that, markets will be looking forward to is that, do you think there could be any change in taxes as far as tobacco is concerned? Not only that, do you expect any tinkering in the excise duty in the oil and gas sector? So petrol, diesel, CNG, do you expect any changes over there?
So tobacco is one subject which has been much talked about in the past, and every time, before the GST came in, there used to see some tweaks in the tobacco part of this story. But I don't foresee that there will be much of the changes as far as tobacco is concerned. But of course, on the petroleum products, we can foresee some bit of changes on the excise duty side.
Mr. Money, on GST, do you expect any GST exemption or any sort of relief on the life insurance premiums, particularly on that front in this budget?
See, the budget cannot announce an exemption on the GST premiums or any relief to senior citizens or anything in the budget, because that can be only announced by the GST Council. But this is something where the GST Council has been actively working with the business for quite some time. And therefore, from a direction perspective, when they talk of the measures taken for senior citizens, for example, or when they talk of the measures taken to increase the insurance penetration in India, it is quite possible that we'll see some direction being given in terms of which way the next wave of GST reforms are headed. That's what we'll be watching out in the budget tomorrow.
Mr. Agarwal, one question that we want to ask you is, as far as the solar value chain is concerned or green energy is concerned, there are multiple duties that have come in which have actually protected the domestic market. Along with that, there are also certain laws that indicate that there has to be a certain component of domestic manufacturing that has to be used in this particular development of green energy. Do you expect any tinkering of taxes? Do you expect some more SOPs to be given as far as the entire green value chain is concerned?
So, if you look at from a solar module perspective, in 22, the rate of duty got changed to 40% as a basic customs duty, and on cell it got changed to around 25%. Duty rates are already quite high when it comes to module and cell. The wafer production as of now is not there in India. I do expect that government should clearly lay down that when do they plan to levy tariff duty or a tariff barrier as far as wafers are concerned, which will give a clear plan to the industry as to by when they need to set up the wafer and ingots manufacturing in India. So that's something which is very important. The other thing I think which is very important is around the entire story around SEZ as far as the green hydrogen is concerned, because a lot of green hydrogen players are planning to set up a unit in SEZ in order to bring down their capex cost. And there are some bit of clarities which are awaited. So maybe in this particular budget, if government gives some clarity to this particular industry, that will be really helpful for the industry to form up their plans.
Mr. Agarwal, what about the amnesty scheme for customs? There are so many cases which are pending. There is litigation going on. Is this a key ask of the industry, and how likely is it that it could be announced in the budget?
So I think last 2 to 3 years, it has been the ask of the industry. And again, if you see in the last budget, government has come out with the GST amnesty scheme, some sort of a GST amnesty. I may not call it as amnesty in particular. As far as customs is concerned, it has been quite long that government has not come up with the amnesty scheme. One of the reasons of the government not to come up with the amnesty scheme is because it is considered that amnesty schemes are not good for the bona fide taxpayers who have complied with the law time and again. But if we look at the long pending litigation which is there, it is clearly has been an ask of the industry for the last 2 to 3 years. And if you ask me at my personal level, I do expect an amnesty scheme for customs being rolled out as a part of this budget.
Mr. Mani, from the ease of doing business, what do you expect from the FM tomorrow in terms of the indirect taxation route? What are your key asks from her?
Look, in terms of ease of doing business, there has been a lot of work already done on the customs side in respect of making the import processes easier and quicker, in respect of making the export processes easier and quicker. A lot of work has happened already on customs in the past few years. But there is clearly much more that we need to do, because when we compare the import clearance time and export clearance time in India, compared with many of the other countries which are importers and exporters, we are far behind. So a lot of work needs to be done in respect of expediting the movement of both import cargo and export cargo. This is one area. The other area when it comes to GST is there is a lot of struggle even today in respect of the eligible input tax credits and the ineligible input tax credits. And we have to bear in mind that when we talk of input tax credits, it's not a tax term that is used, which some people use. An input tax credit is working capital for any organization. It could be a large player, it could be an SME or MSME as well. So when the input tax credits get blocked due to some reason, or they are not available due to some reason, people's ability to scale up their working capital suddenly comes into picture. And the business that was viable suddenly tends to become unviable just because they have money in their books, which they are not able to utilize. So in respect of the input tax credit changes, how do blocked input tax credit get treated? What needs to be done in order to make it seamless for businesses? That was the promise of GST. I guess something on those lines would be very good. But as I said earlier, the remit of the GST Council is to look at GST. It is not part of the union budget. And therefore, from a directional perspective, we might get to hear that they are planning to make input tax credit easier and smoother for all businesses.
Indeed. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining in, and look forward to more conversations once the fine print, the budget is out, and we get a chance to go through the fine print. Thank you for your inputs. We'll slip into a very short break. Before that, some stocks are slipping, even though at the headline level we're holding up well. Whirlpool is now down close to about 10%. Voltas continues to remain under pressure. The street was disappointed with the numbers. Voltas is down another 1.5%. And Credit Axis Grameen has now dipped into the red. These are some stocks which have lost some momentum and steam in the last 30 minutes or so. Get into a break. On the other side, we'll discuss market technicals. Mitesh Thakkar joins in next.